Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York. Senator, thanks for being with us.
Reverend, it's good to be with you once again.
Now, we're in day 11 of this government shutdown. Speaker Johnson has said the House will not convene next week. Can you update us on what, if any, progress is being made this weekend in opening the government back up?
Well, look, Rev, the Republicans are feeling the heat. There are 4 reasons, but above all is health care. We have a health care crisis in America, in large part. It was never great to begin with, but in large part caused by what the Republicans have done in their BBB, their so-called big, beautiful bill, which is an ugly bill. They're even, Trump said, now let's change the name of the bill. He knows how bad it is. But there's a health care crisis. And look what's happening. People are being kicked out of the nursing homes. Their kids don't know what to do with them. They don't have room in their homes. They don't have health care. Millions are losing health care coverage altogether. Kids who have cancer treatments, those are being cut off. And the ACA tax credits, which was passed under President Obama, they're going through the roof. Listen to this, Reverend. The average family will pay from $900 to $1,000 more a month. How do they afford that in terms of their insurance? And if you're a couple, an elderly couple, 55-year-old couple making $80,000, say $40,000 each a couple, you pay $25,000 more for your health insurance. So working families are sitting around the table, the kitchen table at night, and saying, what am I going to do? I can't afford this health insurance, but I need health insurance for my family. And so the Republicans are feeling the heat because they know the American people want the health care crisis fixed. And then adding insult to injury, and that's why there isn't progress this weekend, they're not negotiating. You need to negotiate because you need Democrats and Republicans to pass a bill. When I was majority leader, as you know, we did a lot of good things, but we passed budgets 13 times. But why did we have no shutdowns when I was majority leader? Because bottom line, I sat down with the Republicans and talked. They're not talking. And adding insult to injury, why there's no progress this weekend? Johnson has sent his people home. They haven't been in session for 3 months. 3 weeks, rather. He seems to care more about protecting the Epstein files than protecting America's health care.
His people have not been in for 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Let me raise this to you, Senator. President Trump put out a social media post just hours ago claiming he has directed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to use available funds to pay the troops on Wednesday. This after Republicans blocked a measure in the House just yesterday to make sure they got paid during the shutdown. What's your response to this development? Assuming the president actually can do this, does it change the negotiations at all?
Right. Democrats, look, we want to pay the men and women in our armed forces, and the quickest way to do it would be for Johnson to come back and negotiate a bill that protects Americans' health care, and then everyone, our soldiers, our and armed service people, the people in the air traffic controllers, the guy who works for the federal government and doesn't make much money cleaning up the floors late at night, they'd all get paid. If he sat down and negotiated in good faith and not spend 3 weeks away, we could solve this whole crisis.
Now, the Trump administration has started laying off more than 4,000 federal workers from departments, including health, education, and Social Security. The White House has called its own budget director the Grim Reaper and made it clear it intends to target so-called Democratic programs for cuts. And yet they've tried to criticize you for suggesting a lengthy shutdown may favor Democrats. It sure seems like President Trump is trying to capitalize on this crisis, doesn't it, Senator?
It sure does, and the American people don't like it. Even the government workers, when you talk to them, they resent being used as hostages. They resent being used as pawns by Donald Trump. And it's the kind of thing that Trump does, but the American people don't like it. And the American people, as I said, they want health care. And they want the kinds of things that we Democrats are fighting for to help working families. And when Trump uses these workers as pawns, the American people don't like it, and the workers themselves, I've talked to a whole bunch of them, and so have my colleagues, they resent it as well.
Now, let's switch gears. President Trump will be headed to the Middle East in the next couple of days. UN officials say life-saving aid is flowing into Gaza after Israel and Hamas agreed to a ceasefire. 48 Israeli hostages, 20 alive, and 28 bodies are expected to be released by Monday in exchange for 250 Palestinians. What are your thoughts on what we know about the peace deal so far?
Well, what we know is very good. We have always said we need to do three things. I've been pushing for them. One, bring all the hostages home. And there are a lot of bodies there. We have two New Yorkers, Nutra and Atai, we know they're dead, but their families are mourning for their bodies to be home. Jewish law requires a decent burial. So we want the hostages, dead and alive, all to be returned, number one. Number two, we certainly want a ceasefire, a long-lasting, strong ceasefire. And third, we need to get aid to the Gazan people who are suffering so under a huge humanitarian crisis. So these are the three things that must be done. This is a very, very good a strong step in that direction, but there's more to be done, and particularly more to be done to make sure. First, we'll have to make sure all these promises are kept, and people are saying they are. That's good. But second, we got to make sure there's a long-lasting peace in the Middle East, which means two states, a Palestinian state and a Jewish state, living side by side in peace. And that's the second part of this. That's a big, big step that could make a huge difference.
Yeah, that's a big step. But so far, we all salute what is happening. We hope it continues. But I couldn't help but notice that while the details of the Middle East agreement were being released, Vice President Vance took time out to recycle an old Trump joke about you, calling you a famous Palestinian. Why do you think this administration is so focused on these kind of trolling insults, even in this historic moment?
I think it's just, it's disgraceful how I don't care about me. And, everyone knows who I am and what my views are. I've made them clear over the decades on this issue. In terms of the three things I've mentioned, bring the hostages home, get aid to the Palestinians, and have a real long-term ceasefire. People know my views, and they just troll. They don't believe in trying to negotiate like we're talking about on healthcare. Half the time, 3/4 of the time, instead of directly helping the American people, they put up these memes and they do these videos. And sometimes you wonder, how serious are they about governing and making America better?
This is no joke. Let's talk about Trump's weaponization of the Justice Department. On Thursday, federal prosecutors indicted your and my state's Attorney General Letitia James for alleged mortgage fraud. Criminal charges against former National Secretary John Bolton could come as early as next week. You said this is what tyranny looks like. Can you explain that?
Yes, they have made the Justice Department, which under every other president, Democrat or Republican, pursued the law and went after people who broke the law. They have made it into Trump's personal attack dog. That is what dictatorships do. That's what tyranny is all about. And they did it with Tish James. She had a legitimate case. She pursued it. She actually won. So Trump is now trying to get back at her. But the case is so weak that even Trump's first prosecutor, who he appointed, said there's not a case here. So he fired that one and put a new prosecutor in who would do whatever he wants. But I talked to Tish James a half hour after the indictment came through. She is strong. She is tough. She is resolute. And she is confident, as am I, that these charges will be rejected because they have no basis in law or in fact. So I respect her. She's my friend. And it's, they're doing something vicious to her.
Now, sticking with Letitia James' indictment for a moment, the New York Times is reporting the property Trump's Justice Department is claiming is an investment property was being occupied by relatives who were not paying rent. Do you think that could be part of the reason why career prosecutors were reluctant to move forward with this case in the first place?
I haven't seen the specific factual affidavits and things like that, but yes, it was absolutely clear that they had no case. And One of them was fired because he wouldn't do it. To his integrity, he said, there's no case here. I'm not going forward. Then they find another one. It is just such a hallmark of tyrannical, autocratic dictatorship societies that they use the prosecutorial department as a political weapon. It is a disgrace, and every American, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, moderate, people should be forcefully rising up against this, speaking out against it, and making it clear how inimical this is to what our democracy has been stood for more than two centuries.
All right, thank you to Democratic Senator Minority Leader, my fellow Brooklynite, Chuck Schumer of New York.
Thank you for the time, Reverend. Appreciate it very much.